Even though we had our Hanukkah teaching last week, I still feel like it's still connected to everything that that's still dealing with this series. We've just watched the children of Israel under the leadership of Joshua. As it was spoken, Joshua 1, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now arise and cross this Jordan. We are crossing our Jordans. Then we're picking up our torches or our mantles. And now we're entering the third and final season, which is win our battles. Say, win our battles. Say, I'm going to win my battle. So for this, as far as the series is continuing, as far as we're going forward, everything is going to be connected with winning our battles. The faith of God is declaring that we've already crossed into our Jordan. The faith of God is where we're supposed to be at. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. But even though in the land of promise there will still be giants. So just because you are in the land where you're supposed to be, there still is going to be that battle. What has happened is they've taken the first city, Jericho, and the walls came down. Going into the next city was Ai. Because of some disobedience with a specific dude named Achan, they lost what should have been an easy battle. There was very few people in it. But because of the accursed thing that was in their midst, they lost that battle. However, round two, say round two. They went back. One captured the city. And so as we pick up in Joshua 8, when Joshua and all Israel saw that the ambush captured the city, they turned back and slew the men of Ai and the king of Ai. Joshua or Yeshua hung on a tree. The king of Ai. So that we connect this in a more smooth way, we understand that there is a king over those cities, those places that you're supposed to conquer. There's a king that you need to make sure you identify and hang. If that king is oppression, if that king is depression, that king is fear, doubt, pride, unbelief, identify your king and eliminate it. This is connected to winning your battles. So, Father, as we go forward with the word tonight, let it go forward with power and demonstration. Let every eye be open. I lose wisdom, understanding, the comprehension to receive what we need to receive. Let not the enemy steal the seed that is spoken because of lack of understanding. In Yeshua's name. Amen. Amen. So, what happens? When the Gibeonites heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and to Ai, they acted craftily. See, when you win battles, there's people that's going to be paying attention. There's going to be people that you didn't even know were watching you fight the fight that you were fighting. And they may or may not have good intentions, but remember, you are sent forth as a spectacle on this earth. God has made sure that even if you don't believe other people are watching your battles, God has made sure that other people are watching your battles. Everybody with me on that? However, the Gibeonites, they acted craftily. They took worn out sacks, worn out clothes, and all the bread of provision was dry and moldy. Now that's interesting. What are they doing? Well, they went to Joshua and said to him and to the men of Israel, we've come from a far country, so make a covenant with us. These people that saw you win your battle want to make a covenant with us. Now wait a minute. They're in the promised land. And what is Israel's job supposed to be? Occupy, take land, and do what else? If you're occupying something, you need to do something else.
Take care of it.
Drive out the people that are there occupying it. You're not supposed to be making alliances and covenants with people that are in your territory. Israel. And it didn't say Israelites here, it says Gibeonites. Okay? So, people in your territory watching you win battles and desiring to make a covenant with you. Interesting. So the men of Israel took their provisions and did not ask counsel of Yahweh. And what does Joshua do? Makes peace and a covenant to let them live. And the leaders of the congregation swore an oath to them with the Gibeonites. So what happens? This is on your notes, but 3 days after they made the covenant. It's amazing how quickly your disobedience will confront you. 3 days after they did the wrong thing, right? They found out, they heard that the Gibeonites were neighbors. And the whole congregation grumbled against the leaders. Some of us need to be delivered from Gibeonitis. Gibeonitis. It's a condition in which you keep locking yourself into relationships that Yahweh did not authorize. With people who don't want you, they just want what you have. Everything should be always questioned and counseled by Yahweh God. Whether it's business, professional, make sure you do that. Listen, here's the whole point. Everybody has at one time been affected by Gibeonitis. This is connected, though, to winning your battles. Now, this portion of Scripture in Joshua 9 is later on, but the first verse, Joshua 9 says, when all the kings beyond the Jordan heard of it. What did they hear? They heard of what had happened to the king of Ai. They heard of what had happened to Jericho. So it wasn't just the Gibeonites, the kings also heard it. The kings, defeating the kings is connected to you winning your battles. Identifying these kings, these principalities, these rulers that are coming against you. So what did they do? They heard of it. They gathered together to fight with Joshua and with Israel. You're going to see how this connects with the Gibeonites in a second. We are going to juxtaposition Psalms 2 with Joshua 9 and 10. I want you to get this in your spirit. You are in the promised land. You're doing what you're supposed to what you're supposed to be doing, but apparently there are still kings and people that are still trying to infiltrate the promise of God. In Psalms 2, it says, "Why the Gentiles enrage and the people devise a vain thing? The kings of the earth take their stand, and the rulers take their counsel together against Yahweh." Not just Yahweh and Mashiach and his anointed. Not just against Yahweh, but also against his anointed. We always identify Joshua, Yeshua, Jesus, the name. And the kings did not just take a stand against Israel. They didn't just take a stand against Joshua. All of the above. The kings. There's a prophetic portrait that you see in Acts chapter 4, where when the leadership rises up against the apostles, they quote this Psalms chapter 2. The rulers of this world are not only against Israel, but also Joshua, Yeshua, Yahweh's anointed leader. So there is a connection, just like the enemies of God, there's the Gibeonites, there's his kings that are against you, but there's a connection to your walk with God and God himself and his Messiah. If you separate the people of God from the purpose of God, the plan of God, because you have your own relationship, you're going to miss out why the attack is so strong. Your identity is never connected to just yourself. So the kings did not just gather against Joshua because he was the leader, right? Oh, just Joshua. No, Joshua and Israel. Psalms 2 verse 6, "But as for me, I've installed my king upon Sion, my holy mountain." So Zion, this place, right? Psalms 2. This is after the Canaan conquest. The kings are gathered together against Yahweh and his anointed, but there's a specific location, Zion. Where are we talking about in Joshua? The same place, the same location. So let's look at the name of the first king that's mentioned, Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, sent word to Hoham, to King Par, to King Japhia, to King Debir, saying, "Let us attack." Whoa. Israel? Let us attack Gibeon. For it has made peace with Joshua and with the sons of Israel. Interesting. What did the Gibeonites do? These people that were walking in deceit. These people were acting like something that they were not. It's interesting when God gives you relationships with people that you aren't supposed to have or don't want to have or that you should have. And then all of a sudden, those same people are coming to you and asking you for help. The men of Gibeon sent word to Joshua saying, do not abandon your servants. Come quickly, save us and help us, for all the kings of the Amorites that live in the hill country have assembled against us. This is interesting. So now, here's a Gibeonite repercussions. Gibeonite infiltration creates fights with people who you weren't supposed to be involved with in the first place. And you're warring and having these other battles. But here's the sovereignty of God. You're going to see why God still allowed this to happen. You're going to see God's love and His mercy for the nations. So now you're discouraged, you're frustrated, because you're in a battle you shouldn't be in the first place. But it's kind of your fault, because if you had actually sought God the way you're supposed to sought God, you wouldn't have even known. But at the same time, those same people are still coming to you and asking for help. So Joshua came upon them suddenly by marching all night. Yahweh confounded them before Israel, and he slew them, speaking of those kings, with a great slaughter at Gibeon. Okay? The Gibeonites, God took them to Gibeon. Okay? The place of the Gibeonites. It's very strategic right now. Even though the Gibeonites, quote unquote, weren't originally in God's plan. When you look at Psalms 2, he's saying, why the kings gather together, why the Gentiles imagine vain things, people plotting things. Yahweh said to me, you're my son today, I brought you forth, ask of me, and I'll give you the nations. The Gibeonites. There's other people in the plan of God when it comes to redemption for your story. It's not just about your own personal plan. So even certain things that maybe didn't line up the way they're supposed to line up, God still loves everyone and still wants there to be redemption for everybody. Mm-hmm. Because what I realized when I was convicted by doing this sermon is I actually have been a Gibeonite. Someone actually let me into their place where I wasn't supposed to be at. Someone made a covenant with me because I used to be a deceiver. I used to be a blasphemer. I used to be. I know I was the only sinner in the room. I get that. But when I see God's heart for the lost and all people, and why God will still allow that to happen. Thank God that there was still a Joshua that fought for me when I was a Gibeonite. So this battle now, they're fighting at Gibeon. God will orchestrate divine battles at the location of your misjudgment. Now you're fighting for people that shouldn't be there in the first place, at a location you shouldn't even be at. Why? So He can redeem the unintended alliances. But something greater happens at this place. It'd been one thing if this was just, this is what God did for Israel, this is what God did for Israel. This is what God did for Israel when they were fighting for the nations. You see this? This is what God did for Israel when they were fighting for someone else. So speaking of these kings, as they fled before Israel, Yahweh threw large stones from heaven. God used to say that for us, and we're doing our battles. There were more who died from the hailstones than those whom the sons of Israel killed with the sword. What God? Now you're going to bring that divine intervention? When it's not me, just your favorite? Now that I'm fighting for someone else, that's when you decide to bring a great and miraculous work? First title of his sermon is Love on the Rocks. Man, I was watching, flipping through channels, get that KC, what is that, KCPT or whatever? They had Neil Diamond on. Come on. And I was like, here's the thing about Neil Diamond, okay? First of all, still got it, okay? Still got it. Come on. And he's like, love on the rocks. He's still, just breaking it down like, this is the smoothest Jew I think ever, the way he was singing, I was like, because I was gonna hate on a little bit. You know, when they get older, it's just like, whatever, just got my fan. No, he was killing the notes. Had the same the grit, the growl that he had. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at his band and the people that and the crowd is singing the songs. And so when that love on the rocks thing hit me, even though Israel fought good, because they did, they killed people with the sword, God's loving protection of his children will always be greater. So yeah, you think you've been fighting hard, you think you've been praying hard, whatever, but God's like, I will throw rocks from the sky to show you how much I love you. But the miracles keep coming. Then Joshua spoke to Yahweh, and he said in the sight of Israel's son, stay still, Shemesh, Megiddo on Dom. Don't move. Dom also is a word for silence. Don't even say anything. Stay still at Gibeon, and moon in the valley of Ajalon. I mean, God is throwing rocks in the sky, making the host of heaven not even move. So the sun stood still and the moon stopped until the nation avenged themselves of their enemies for about a whole day. The sun did not move, the moon did not move until, say until. Everybody in this room, you have an until. There's certain things that God is just holding in place because he's not done yet. There is an until. Receive your until tonight. Amen? Don't be discouraged when things aren't moving as fast as you want them to move. God is still moving. He's literally positioning. He's moving, but he's causing other things to stop. Amen. Yahweh will stop anything he has to until he finishes the fight, even if he has to make the world revolve around you. So in conclusion, I'm telling you, these next few weeks we talk about really getting into these kings and what it means to win your battles. I want to make sure the tone is set. You think you're fighting alone. No, there's someone fighting for you and with you. There's someone who set the stage perfectly. All you see are kings. And all God sees are already defeated enemies. Amen. All God sees is another opportunity for him to display his glory. So, in these last few notes, these 5 kings had fled and hid themselves in the cave at Makkedah. Now remember, these are the ones boasting against the people of God, boasting against the people that were helping the people of God that made leagues, and now they're running and hiding. Joshua said, roll large stones against the mouth of the cave. Which should be enough, right? But do not stay there yourselves. Pursue your enemies. He's telling you to pursue your enemies. Because you cannot win your battles if you're not willing to run and fight. There's a time when you have to decide, I will stop being the one who's being chased, and I will start being the one who's doing the chasing. So when we started Joshua 1, verse 3, this is in your notes because you should know this by heart by now. What did he tell them? Every place. Every place that the sole of your foot treads on, I give it to you. And that's nice, right? Because we're thinking of the land, right? Every place the sole of our feet treads upon. When I go here, when I go to... And remember, when I'm talking about when you go into specifically the store, when you go into your homes, when you go into a place of unsaved people, you need to think with a kingdom mind. Every place the sole of your foot treads upon. This is what God has given me for kingdom purposes, a kingdom reality. But now we're not just talking about places. God takes these kings, throws them in a cave. Says, yeah, go pursue your enemies. Well, but the kings are right here. Why do I need to? I mean, I got enemies right here. We need to take care of that. What's he do? They go back to the cave. Joshua said, open the mouth of the cave and bring these 5 kings and put your feet on the necks of these kings. Every place the sole of your foot treads upon is yours for the kingdom of God. We want to be religious. Oh, well, we're just talking about things, places. No, we're talking about principalities and demonic people. Wickedness that is trying to cancel your assignment. And Joshua, Yeshua, Jesus, is not playing. Romans 16:20. Satan under your feet shortly. Then Joshua said, do not fear, for this is what Yahweh will do to all of your enemies. So when I say you can win all of your battles, yes, every enemy that comes against you, every king, you identify that king of fear, that king of doubt, that unbelief, and you be ready now to place your foot upon its neck. So the final title is Royal Steps. The reason why we're going to win our battles is because we're taking royal steps. Let the next neck that's stepped on be the kings of your enemies before the enemies of your king step on yours. We're not here preaching doubt and unbelief, but we're not here preaching failure. Oh, the devil did this, the devil did that, getting whooped all the time. Oh, that's not the gospel. The victory in Jesus' name. Stand up on your feet with me, please. Lift your hand to the Lord if you feel like you were stepped on this week. Anybody feel like they were stepped on this week? The devil's a liar. Hasatan Shakram. The devil is a liar. Hallelujah. Now, if you're ready to reverse the position, meet me at this altar. What's reverse of it? Devil stepping on you, time to reverse the position.